Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. I know it's been a long day. How are we feeling? Good? Awesome. Okay, so I'm only up here for a few minutes, but I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Jessica DuHaime, and I am a pharmacist by training. And thank you so much to the Sumaira Foundation, to Sumaira, Jill, Michael, everyone who's helped put this event on. It's really such an honor to be included and to have the opportunity to be up here speaking with all of you. And I'm so inspired by all of the positive energy in this room, and I feel like it's a perfect time to talk about giving back and supporting the entire MOGAD community and how you can do that through participation in clinical trials. And I'm going to be focusing on one particular UCB-sponsored clinical trial today, but my key point that I want you to take home is really just the benefits in participating in research, whether it's this study or another study, whatever's a good fit for you, that's what I'm hoping that you take home. And so I'll be talking to you today about the COSMOG study. And the COSMOG study is a randomized control trial for patients with MOGAD. And, oh, let me see how this clicker works. Oh, it works. Awesome. So the COSMOG study is what we'll get to in a little bit. But as a pharmacist, throughout my training, I had plenty of classes that taught me what clinical research studies are. And I know that not everyone understands what the words that are used in these studies or the terms to describe certain things, so I'm hoping to break that down a little bit for you. But first, I want to start with a poll. So raise your hand high if you've ever taken a prescription medication. Ever. Anything. All right, for the people at home, if you can't see, I think almost everyone in the room raised their hand. And raise your hand if you've ever participated in a clinical research study. All right, so more than I expected, but still only a few hands raised. Well, I get it. No one wants to be the guinea pig, right? But for a medication to become a prescription, it has to go through a clinical research study to make sure that it is safe and effective in the condition that it's being used for. And so what is a clinical research study? Well, you've already heard them called clinical trials before, and what they are is they're just studies in human subjects that gather information about how a drug works and what side effects it might cause. And the drug being studied in those trials is known as an investigational medication. And safety is the #1 priority here. So safety is the #1 priority here, and all of these plans for studies are rigorously reviewed, and they're created by experts in the disease state. So know that you can have peace of mind, and that experts helped create this, and that it wasn't just the company that decided the way the study was going to be run. And why is it important to participate in these studies? Well, the one point I really want to call out is that historically, clinical trials did not always recruit patients that were representative of the disease state that they were studying. A lot of times they were from one ethnicity and one gender, and that was the patient population that the investigational drug was being studied in. However, if you look around in this community, you know that not everyone with MOGAD looks the same, and not every MOGAD patient has the same symptoms. And so participating in clinical research will make sure that the next patient that goes into the doctor's office can ask their provider, how will this medication work in a patient like me? And it's only through participation in clinical research studies that we will have those answers. All right, now let's talk about the fun stuff, the COSMOG study. So besides the fun name, it is a study for patients with MOGAD, and MOGAD's been rapidly gaining attention, and the research is so astounding in how fast it's moving. And can everyone still hear me okay? I thought I heard my, okay, good. So even though the research is progressing so fastly, there's still a lot of unknowns, right? We don't know what the best way to treat these diseases are, especially in MOGAD. We don't have any specific FDA-approved drugs that are just for the use in MOGAD yet. We're very fortunate to have some other options, but nothing that's specific for that disease state. And the COSMOG study is an interventional study. So we're not going to be removing anything from your daily standard of care, but instead, we're going to be adding an investigational medication, and that's why it's called an interventional study. And we understand the journey with MOGAD is not an easy one. It's full of uncertainty and short and long-term concerns and possible long-term disability. And the goal with this particular COSMOG study is to see if we can use an investigational drug to prolong those times between relapses. And participating in the study will not only help understand this particular investigational drug, but also contribute to the understanding of the disease state in general. I feel like I'm holding a lot of things in my hands, but... All right, so let's talk about the investigational drug. The investigational drug is called rozanolixizumab, and trust me, I won't make you try to say that later on today, but at UCB, we call it Rosie. And Rosie was recently approved by the FDA for the use in generalized myasthenia gravis in adults with that condition. And that means that the safety has been reviewed, it's been established, and we know that it works for another autoimmune condition. And Rosie works differently than the other options that we have for MOGAD right now. It works by decreasing the amount of harmful autoantibodies you have that are circulating around, and those harmful autoantibodies are the ones that will attack the MOG protein and lead to inflammation and attacks. It's administered as a weekly subcutaneous infusion or under the skin infusion that lasts about 15 to 20 minutes. And we know that participating in clinical trials can be scary. There are unknowns, and it's completely voluntary. But since you're taking time out of your life to participate in research, UCB has done everything they can to make this as little of a burden as possible. I'm going to go over 3 main parts of this particular study, but I'm also going to define some terms that are often used in clinical trials in case they come across your mind or your conversations the next time you're with your provider. The first is the screening period, the second is the double-blind treatment period, and the third is the open-label extension. So the screening period is when you meet with the study team, and they determine whether or not the study is a good fit for you. If it is, then you get the option to move into the double-blind treatment period. Now, what does that mean? So blinded means that the doctor, the study team, and the patient have no choice or knowledge of whether they're receiving the investigational medication or the placebo. Now, the placebo is used because we have to have a control group to determine whether or not we're going to have a difference with the investigational medication. And I know that a 50% chance of receiving a placebo sounds really scary. It sounds like you don't want to spend time just to get the placebo. But be assured that not only will you receive expert level care that is very close, and your condition will be very, very closely monitored, but there are plans in place so that if you do have a relapse during the treatment period, you will receive the care that you should, and you'll also have the option to enter into the third part of the study, which is the open label extension. And now the open label extension was built into the study to ensure that all participants, regardless of whether they were in the placebo group or the investigational medication group, it's built in to ensure that all patients will have the option to receive the investigational medication. So there are 2 ways to enter the open label extension. The first is if you do have a relapse, you receive the treatment, and then you can opt in to receive the investigational medication. The second way is if you get all the way through the double-blind treatment period and you don't have a relapse, you still will have the option to enter into the open label extension. And it's called open label because the investigator and you will both know by that point that you are receiving the investigational medication. And remember that you're in control in these situations. You can choose if at any point this becomes too overwhelming and you feel like maybe you've had a life change and it's no longer feasible to participate. You're the one that gets to decide whether you continue on or drop out of the study. And that can happen at any point. Now let's look at who's eligible for this particular study. But eligibility criteria is just a list of requirements that the study team will review with you during the screening time to make sure that it's a good fit. Now, we're looking to enroll 100 participants in the COSMOG study. Participants should be aged at least 18 years of age up to 89 years old and have a diagnosis of MOGAD with at least one relapse after your initial attack within the last 12 months. And so here's a quick look at where the study sites are. And this is as of today. We have 9 active sites in the United States with 4 more on their way. And I know that there's not one in New York. And Dr. Kister wanted me to give a call out that he does have other trials going on in New York at NYU with him. And if that's something that you're interested in or would be convenient, feel free to reach out to him. But we had representation here in this room from the tri-state and beyond. So maybe there is a site that's close to you. If not, that's okay too, because I'd like to tell you a quick story about the first patient who enrolled in this clinical trial. So as you can see, the closest active site right now is in Boston, and that is with Dr. Michael Levy, the infamous Dr. Michael Levy at Mass General. And we have 2 sites, one at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore and one in DC, that will be activated very soon. And the first patient in this trial lived in California. And the only site at that point was in Boston with Dr. Levy. And so every week, this patient got on a flight, went across the country to receive medication, and he didn't transfer to, and it was a few months until he was able to transfer to a site that was closer to him. And I want to use this example because support is available. Like I mentioned before, we want to make this as little of a burden to you as possible because you're volunteering your time. And so use that support, ask questions. A few people in the room raised their hands saying that they had participated in trials. You have support available from the Sumaira Foundation, from SRNA, and your medical team that you see at home as well. Support is available to help with any transportation costs, with costs for meals, with costs for lodging, whatever is required for your specific situation. Just know that support is available. And whether it's this trial, another trial, I really encourage you to consider participating in research. The advances that we've had today and the speed at which we've been able to have them wouldn't have been possible without participation in clinical trials. Not only could you be possibly benefiting yourself and your own care, but you're also benefiting the greater MOGAD community and helping advance the understanding of the disease state. There are currently no treatment options for MOGAD that are FDA approved. Studies offer an opportunity to receive a free investigational medication and free access to care. When else do you get to see your doctor weekly, right? Think about how close you'd become to them then. And the providers are also experts in this disease state. You'll be closely monitored, and with the COSMOG study, you have a guarantee to receive the investigational drug, regardless of whether or not you were in the placebo group during the treatment period or the investigational group. Remember that support is available, and you are in control, and that you could be what ties MOGAD research together. I'm going to put these down so I don't drop this clicker. I will be here with my colleague Danielle at the UCB table if you have any questions. And thank you so much again for listening and for your attention. And I will hand it back. I believe we go on a break, but I'll hand it back to Sumaira now. Thank you.